Alrighty, hello, beautiful people. Hope you're having an amazing day. You are a star. Don't let anybody dim your light. Today we are with Trish, herbologist, naturopath, uh, on a break from the live Twitch streaming. But yeah, good friend as well. She's a very enthusiastic about plants as we are today. And we understand just how healing. The medicine is. Okay, so today I'd like to talk to her about more so. Firstly, let's understand who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name's Trish, and yeah, Daniel kind of introduced what I do already, but I'll explain it a lot more.
Mm,
I'm a naturopath and herbalist. A lot of people don't know what a naturopath is. Basically, what we do is we work with an individual, so we focus on individualized healing, so not a one size fits all. And we use nutritional medicine and herbal medicine as well as lifestyle interventions to come up with a treatment plan for the person. So anything that you can see a GP, like a general practitioner doctor for, you can see a naturopath for. And a lot of people don't really know that. They don't think like that. They don't think that we can treat the same things that a GP could.
mm,
Obviously, if things are chronic, we work with your doctor as well, which is really important. So we can work alongside your GP, so we can start to integrate, the more lifestyle, the more natural ways of healing. So you don't have to be stuck on medication for the rest of your life if it's in its early stages and it's not something that's like chronic and life-threatening. So we want to try and get things early on, prevention, rather than it being too late, basically.
yeah.
Naturopaths work
Uh,
really well with prevention, rather than focusing on, it
Putting a
leading into
band-aid on.
yeah, putting a band-aid fix on it. Yeah, so that's what we do. And nutritional medicine looks at, like, for example, like, we all know apples are good for us, but say you come in and you have a specific condition. So say you come in and you have, a potential for heart disease in your family. We'll construct the diet plan based around that, that specific issue that you have. So the diet is structured around what health concerns or health conditions that you have. We know the foods, the superfoods, the herbs, and everything that's going to help with that specific condition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now you said you specialize more in the nutrition. Now, a lot of people don't understand that a lot of doctors don't have much education around nutrition. Now, I've heard they've only get maybe 20 hours in worth of knowledge in their entire, what is it, 6 to 10 years.
Yeah.
How important is it with plants, and how powerful is it in terms of like healing us? Because a lot of people will turn to certain things like medicine, cutting certain foods off. Those are great, but the
Mhm.
power of plants. How effective in they are in, like, restructuring our DNA, our gut health, things of that nature. Because I don't think many people understand just how powerful it is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, like, you are what you eat is literally
Mm.
100% true. Um,
Yeah,
it's true what you just said, Daniel, as well. GPs unfortunately don't get a lot of training in nutrition and in food. And it's not usually, not to speak for all and not to disregard doctors or
yeah,
anything,
yeah,
but they don't get much training in it unless they're an integrative doctor. So that you're seeing a lot more
right.
integrative GPs and things like that who are going on and doing extra courses and things like that now.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the general GP training, they don't get much information on nutritional medicine. And then, yeah, like, pretty much, any condition that you have, like, let's look at heart disease, as I mentioned before, obesity,
Yeah.
one of the biggest killers. That's literally a diet related disease. That's
Mm.
that's being inactive, not going for, your daily walks, not exercising, eating the wrong foods, eating too much sugar. um, Lots and lots of illnesses stem from inflammation. So even depression, you know,
Yeah.
is they're actually doing a lot of research around how there's inflammation there. So an anti-inflammatory diet is literally like what I promote and preach to people,
Mm,
and plants are anti-inflammatory, and there's
yeah.
lots of anti-inflammatory herbs. So like, to
Yeah.
me, it just seems like the most important thing. And I feel like, yeah, I think that it really needs to be like an integrated thing for doctors to learn and focus on and give people much better advice, because
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we see, like even in our hospital systems, dietitians, even like, you know, they're working alongside companies with like the heart tick and things like that, giving foods those kind of marketing little 5-star ratings and things like
Mm,
that. And they're not really like promoting foods that are natural, like, you know, your fruits, your vegetables, herbal medicines, all that. They're promoting like a product, like for example Sustagen, you know, it's like a meal replacement shake, and this is going to
yeah.
be good for this, or Metamucil's good for fiber, and like they're
Mm,
pushing those products, but
yeah.
you could just be eating your fruits and vegetables and like
Yeah.
having, you know,
Yeah.
a better diet. So yeah, I think food is, to me, like the most important.
Yeah.
And then the herbs and the exercise and the lifestyle stuff, that's all like an extra little addition that can
Yeah.
really, really make a big difference as well.
Yeah. Now, you said one very important thing. One thing I've been diving into is like alkalinity. You know, our bodies function optimally at a neutral state of potential of hydrogen, right? Which is the pH level from 0 to 14. And there seems to be a link here with like anti-inflammatory foods, okay? Foods that are more alkaline, foods that are full of more nutrients.
Mhm.
What sort of foods are more anti-inflammatory, and what foods can prevent that from prevent inflammation from happening? Because as you know, like a lot of these diseases that we experience today are really just lifestyle and the foods that we eat, and these are the things that are causing these conditions in our bodies to deteriorate. What sort of what are some powerful anti-inflammatory foods or plants more so
Mhm.
that can help really people prevent those things happening in the first place?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of turmeric, for example. Turmeric is a highly
Mm,
researched herb root, and it's got a chemical in it called curcumin, which has been shown to be really great for inflammation. And ginger is another
mm,
one. So turmeric and ginger.
mm.
And a little tip, if you are using turmeric, studies have shown if you add black pepper and a little bit of a fat, like a coconut oil or something like that, with
Ah,
it,
okay.
you're going to absorb
Yeah,
the curcumin, so the anti-inflammatory property, a lot better. So things like, yeah, turmeric, ginger, blueberries, so things that have really high antioxidants, like all your
yeah,
berries are really good,
yeah,
pineapple,
yeah,
papaya,
yeah,
your leafy greens,
yeah,
you know, basically fruits and vegetables all
yeah,
have anti-inflammatory properties.
yeah,
And then the foods you really, really want to avoid for inflammation are things like sugar, refined sugar. And people get so confused with the fruit thing. It just annoys me so much.
yeah,
But fruit is just so good for you. Like, you know, a lot of the time people that are not eating fruit, they're eating other crap. And then
yeah,
they're saying that they can't eat the fruit. And it's like,
yeah,
no, eat the apple, eat the berries. Don't
yeah,
eat the chips at night or the Mars bar at night, you know,
yeah.
that kind of thing. If you cut those things out, you can have fruit.
Mm,
And then so refined sugar, wheat and like gluten, you know, inflammatory, especially if you have like a genetic predisposition to it. And then your
yeah.
dairy as well in a lot of people. It depends on your genetic makeup as well. Like genes are something that I'm really interested in.
Okay.
Some people will not deal with different foods, you know, like dairy or wheat, and then others might be okay, like a little bit better, you know. Still it's an inflammatory food in my opinion, but
Yeah.
some people might tolerate it better than others, basically. So those are the things that I would avoid. And then alcohol, you know, obviously not too much alcohol and things like that. Yeah. Daniel's gone. He's lagging. Why did you move, Daniel? Oh, it's funny. He's slowly coming back. He's slowly coming back. I'm just going to start going off on a tangent and talking about different things until he comes back. So Daniel has a really good message for us, and that message is go outside even when you're trying to do a live stream to get some fresh air and vitamin D, but then you might not be able to continue your live stream. I don't know if we're gonna
Okay, we're back.
I was just going off on a tangent. I'm back.
Oh
Don't
my.
move, Daniel. Don't move, Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Sorry. Where did you leave off? So you were saying sugar, like fruit example. Like, yeah, there is a huge myth. Like the marketing in how, like, low carb, no sugar, no fat, all these things. All these fear propaganda in the in society has really stirred us away from eating like real foods, like fruit itself. And as you know, like eating like the fruit comes with a lot of amazing benefits as well. Like your fiber to keep us fuller, to keep our gut flowing. Yeah, like she said, like don't get so caught up in the no sugar thing. Like there's obviously, I think, what is it, the sucrose? Is that the more the one that you want to avoid? I think the
Yeah, yeah,
fructose.
yeah, 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 yeah. And you want to avoid, sucrose in your, like, basically just don't eat
Mm,
refined sugar, added sugars. Even like if you have a fruit juice, try and make it freshly squeezed, or get a fresh fruit
mm,
juice with more vegetable bases in it as well. Um, but yeah, just try to eat less things that come from a
yeah.
packet that have lots of ingredients on it, and more fruits, vegetables, and whole foods. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
confusing for people, and I think it's something that a lot of people like to sort of, I don't know, convince themselves on, or stick with. Like
Mm,
that thought process is a very hard one to break in people.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really,
How
really
how
tough.
sig- how significant does food have on our gut? Because I know a lot of people, we eat a lot of things based on our moods, and then what we eat has an effect on our mood. How powerful is being mindful of just what we put into our body and affecting our mood,
It's really, really effective. So, gut
Yeah.
bacteria, there's a lot like of, research coming out on gut bacteria. A lot of us from young have taken lots of courses of antibiotics, and, really destroyed our gut flora. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear a lawnmower, but there's a lawnmower going off. Um, And if you take one course of antibiotics, it can actually like really wipe out your gut bacteria and take like a year to start building it back. And they've shown that like having inadequate healthy
Wow.
flora can really affect your mood, and cause anxiety and lots of other
Mm,
issues as well. But basically
yeah.
making sure that you're eating a diet that doesn't feed bad bacteria. Like, and have you heard of candida?
Mm,
Candida overgrowth, yeast and things like that. So basically, when you're eating a lot of sugars and wheat and bad food, basically processed
yeah.
food, you're feeding the bad bacteria, to put it simply, and you're not really helping your good guys thrive. So like things like probiotic
Mm,
foods, prebiotic foods, which are even more important than probiotics because they feed the good bacteria, so all your fibers. Um, is going to help your bacteria, and then in turn help your mood. And like things like what you're doing now, going and sitting in the sunshine. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to, having lower mood, having depression.
mm,
So important to get vitamin D
mm,
every day as well. So yeah, it's very important in how it affects your mood and your energy too. If you're feeling tired, burnt out, stressed, um, if you've got adrenal fatigue and high cortisol, then that's going to affect your mood as well. So that can all be treated with having a healthy, balanced diet. And then also, there's beautiful herbs that can help with things like mood and cortisol and stress as well. So yeah.
yeah. What is the history behind herbology, the whole lifestyle? Because I don't know if there's like some sort of link with like witchery, not to get like all like You know what I'm saying? Like there was obviously a time when the women would come together and get and use the plants in certain pots, and but more so like not so much like at a magic point of view, but in a more healing process. Where did that come from? How did that stem from? Because yeah, a lot of people think it's just like, oh, like voodoo, but like there's been a time where we actually lived this way.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have like the advances that we have today. We didn't have testing. We didn't
Mm,
have labs. We didn't have all that. All we had
mm,
was nature and plants. And so through
mm.
traditional knowledge and like, experimenting,
Yeah,
and some people poisoned themselves through that. um,
yeah.
we learned and we grew and we built a medicine system in different cultures, different tribes and everything. So,
Mm,
it's just like learning what to
mm,
eat. We learned which berries to eat, which ones not to eat, and all that. So, a lot of people think that naturopathy, and this is something that I have to battle with a lot,
yeah.
is not a science-based profession. So we
Mm,
do look at traditional healing methods because there's so much to say for them. Like, this is years and years and years of using plants, studying plants, and understanding them. So that you have to give that merit. You have to give that some
mm,
merit, and still things to this day like hold up.
yeah.
But we are at a point of time now where, when you're prescribing someone to a sick person, you really do need to make sure that there is some like scientific evidence to back up what you're doing. So for me, it was a 4-year degree. It's a Bachelor of Health Science that I studied.
Mm,
Everything that I submitted had to be referenced, had to have random controlled trials behind it. So when people say, oh, there's no evidence for what you do, plants, there's no science behind it. It's like, well, have you ever taken the time to actually look up a journal article and read that the chemicals in this plant,
mm,
contribute to this? Or, people who took elderberry for a period of 4 weeks, significantly reduced their influenza symptoms and like got rid of the cold so much quicker. Or, valerian root, there was a study on valerian root which showed that it was like helping people sleep, better than a sleeping pill. Same with St. John's wort, which is used for
yeah.
depression. They've compared St. John's wort to antidepressants and found really promising results with that. So it's like when people come and say that stuff to me, I just know that they haven't really looked into it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Like
Yeah.
I've learned not to, take that personal. But yeah, it's just about education, and I think more people need to like, in a sense, not put the voodoo like like I love all that stuff. I think it's cool, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
people need to kind of stand up in this industry and speak from a professional
Mm,
science-based you know point of view,
yeah.
because it'll build respect for what we do as well, because a lot of people
Yeah.
are skeptical. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, something similar. I mean, looking into, I think did you switch your diet to a plant-based diet?
I
Um,
did, but I am eating some animal products now. Don't kill me.
okay. Well, what was it? What was the inspiration behind it anyway? Because I know, like, as you know, plants are so healing, and there's a lot of positive impacts when you switch to a plant-based diet. What was it for you? And what are some signs to show that a plant-based diet can be optimal for a lot of people?
Yeah, definitely. A plant-based diet is, the diet that you should aim to
Mm,
be on, really. Like, low rates of heart disease, high fiber, high antioxidants, as I said, very low inflammatory diet. Um, So yeah, if you can eat majority of your food coming from plants, less saturated fat. So we're supposed to have more
mm,
polyunsaturated,
mm,
monounsaturated fats, which come from things like avocados, nuts, seeds, coconut oil, coconuts. Rather than having like too much saturated fat, which is,
yeah.
your cheese, your dairy, your meat, your butter, and all that. So yeah, I think that people should aim to eat more plants. There's a beautiful quote that I like, and it's called "Eat food, not too much, mostly plants." It's a good one. That's what I tell my clients.
Simple, simple.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of confusion, like in the diet world, diet culture of like, what's the best thing to eat? Should I have low fat? Should I have high carb? Should I have keto? This and that. And, you've put it out very simply, like, just eat enough, to fill yourself up. And, like, that's it, right? What's some advice for some people who kind of lost in uh, finding the right diet? People who continuously yo-yo diet,
Mm.
right? What are some tips that you can give for those who want to, find a balanced medium between eating good and, snacking or eating something cheeky here and there?
Yeah. I would just say, like, first of all, stop. Like, some people are addicted to like reading book after book after book
Mm,
after book on all
mm,
different diets. And like, that's
yeah,
great to educate yourself, but like, listen to your body more, look
mm,
at your own individual issues. So, if you have like acne, for example, maybe you want to go
yeah,
on a really nice, like plant-based, very clean diet, look after your liver, look at your own issues and your own like family, like predispositions to certain things. Like my mum has high cholesterol, so maybe I should
yeah,
go on a, look at that rather than looking at what is put out there and like trying to follow something that might not apply to you. So just, yeah,
mm,
listen to your body, look at your own family history, and then, I like to tell my clients, like, you can still have ice cream, but just make maybe like a nice like banana almond milk smoothie ice cream, put it in the fridge. Like, you can still make like your favorite foods, but just healthier versions
mm,
of those foods. So that's
yeah,
another thing. And then, as I say, fruit, go for fruit when you want to pick something else that's like naughty. And then as long as you sort of structure your meals to have like some protein, a healthy fat, a complex carbohydrate, and then your veggies or whatever, your leafy greens, then that's a nice little structure to have for your meals. And if you do fall off the wagon, it's not the end of the world. The next
yeah,
meal's a good one. That's it. Yeah.
yeah. It really is, eh? So, like, again, so when it comes to diets, try not to restrict yourself so much, because I think that's where a lot of people fall off, right? It's like, I got to eat a certain way. They box it up. And
Yeah.
as soon as they catch themselves eating something naughty, something that's out of their routine, then they punish themselves for it. They go into binge eating. They go back to the old ways,
Yeah.
and they've lost all that progress in eating well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that quote that you said, really just keep it simple. Don't overdo it, and eat to, like, listen to your body a lot more. And
Yeah.
the greatest
Absolutely.
teacher is our own gut. Our gut is our biggest navigator through this.
Yeah.
It tells us when something's bad about to happen, or something that we shouldn't eat. And yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, tune in to have a look at your family history, and even your environment. How is that causing you stress in your own life, and and how is that causing you to eat certain ways.
Yeah.
My next
Yeah.
question: you've got a very special pantry behind you, and I think I've seen another version where it was massive. You had what are five, you know, five plants that most people should have in their pantry?
Hmm. I would say definitely get turmeric powder. Get a turmeric powder, get a ginger powder, anti-inflammatory, can chuck them into a
Yeah.
smoothie, can add them into any recipe. Garlic powder as well is really good, really easy for everyone to use. I love my calming things because we're in such a high-paced, stressed, like, world these days. So like, chamomile is a beautiful one. It's anti-inflammatory as well, and it's great for it's a
Mm,
sedative herb. It's something that most people can access and get. Really great for sleep, really great for anxiety.
yeah.
What's another one that I could say that is really, really good? Rosemary is really great for the brain. It's also really great for your liver and gallbladder, and
Yeah.
it helps you metabolize fats.
Yeah.
And what else? What else? What else? What else? Cinnamon. Cinnamon helps regulate
Mm,
blood sugar. It actually
oh,
helps
cool.
people regulate blood sugar. So these are just like basic ones. Like, I
Yeah.
have like a dispensary from A to Z of herbs.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, herbal medicine, what's that? Like, when I stream on Twitch, they're like, oh, marijuana. I'm like, there are so many more herbs than marijuana.
uh,
Seriously, but those are the ones that you can access and have in your kitchen, and they're cheap and they're very effective.
yeah. Awesome. Very, very accessible to most people, anyways.
Yeah, yeah. And not everyone has like, this is another thing, like, I'm a really realistic practitioner. Like, I'm not
Mm,
like, oh, you need to go and get these like $20 exotic berries and like, You know, you need to go and get these seeds that cost, you know, because a lot of people, like especially in like lockdown and COVID and all that, they can't
Yeah.
afford to go and maintain these glamorous health food diets. And if
Yeah.
you can, that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
that's really good. But a lot of people can't. So just, you know, looking at health from a really cost-effective, long-term, you know, budget-friendly way is also something that's going to help you stick to it and not feel like you're not keeping up with the next trend, because that can really make people feel sort of like they're not doing well. You don't really need all that stuff. You can keep it really simple.
Mm.
Mm.
You mentioned some things about influenza. Now, you know, given that a lot of the symptoms people might be experiencing today, with all the fear, with all the sound happening around, you know, COVID and all that things like that, the flu and COVID have very similar symptoms. What are some things that can be very healing for people in terms of, you know, dealing with those things? Maybe not just medicine, maybe not just plants or herbs, but other methods that can, you know, prevent these things. You know, you talk a lot about prevention. What are some things that we can prevent ourselves from getting sick in the first place and getting ourselves out of these positions?
Yeah, good question. So sugar dramatically decreases the immune system. It actually, refined sugar, when I say sugar, it actually really affects our immune system. So the more sugar you eat, refined sugar, you know, you're going to have a big impact on immune function. Not being out in the sun is a huge one for our immune system. We need the sun just like plants do. So making sure that you have sunshine every day for at least 20 minutes, not in the hottest part of the day, you know, if you're worried about skin cancer and things like that. Another one would definitely be stress. High cortisol affects our immune system tremendously as well. Lack of sleep, which I've been guilty of lately, but lack of sleep is definitely something that, you know, it affects our hormones, it affects our weight, it affects our mood, it can affect your immune system as well. Smoking, you know, it strips you of a lot of minerals, a lot of vitamins. Same with like alcohol. Too much alcohol, it can inhibit certain vitamins and things. So yeah, just trying to keep like a well-balanced diet that has like, if you want to focus on immune function primarily, you want to make sure you're having enough vitamin C every day, because vitamin C is a water-based, it's a water-soluble vitamin, and you excrete it every day. So it's not like a fat-soluble one that actually can stick around. We actually excrete it, and we need it every day. We need to take it in every day. And obviously, we all know vitamin C is good for immune function. And zinc is another vitamin that mineral that a lot of us are deficient in, and it's very important for healthy digestion and healthy immune function as well. So, you know, whenever I say this to someone, I'm like, look up zinc-rich foods, and if you're plant-based, just Google foods highest in zinc that are plant-based, and start eating more of those. And same with vitamin C, like, you know, obviously your oranges, your blueberries, and all that kind of stuff on a daily basis. Or you can take like a supplement as well. Supplements are good sometimes.
That's it. Key really is just to get more plants, like you said, that thrive from the sun. And, you know, things like you mentioned before, things like mushrooms, leafy greens, chickpeas, all very high in zinc, you know, hemp seeds, all that kind of stuff can really prevent a lot of these things in the first place. And of course, like other things as well, like, you know, not watching too much television or media or news and things like that, that's going to mitigate your you know, like, it's, I get it, like we all want to catch up on the things, we all want to stay informed and what's happening, and you know what's happening in society, but ultimately, you know, you want to keep your well-being at a balanced state, and doing those things like you mentioned, you know, getting enough, like eating enough plants, you know, looking after yourself, looking after your body, looking after your mind, and so you can continue thriving and preventing those things in the first place.
There's some really good herbs for immune function too. There's herbs like echinacea, astragalus, andrographis, which is antiviral, elderberry. All those herbs are really great for immunity. If you have an autoimmune condition, you do have to be a little bit careful about taking things that enhance immune function, because they can make your symptoms worse. So that's why I say, like, it's not a one size fits all, you're an individual, and if you have a health condition like autoimmune condition, you do have to be careful when you're taking and experimenting with herbs that can enhance immune function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to medicine, right? When is there a necessary time for pills? Now, I'm not very for pills, and I'm sure there's I know that a lot of the pills today derive from plants ultimately.
Aspirin is from a herb called Salix alba. So willow bark is actually how aspirin is made. So yeah, absolutely comes from plants.
Yeah. Yes, and a lot of people don't realize that, simply because we've been conditioned. If something happens, we go to the doctor, they give us a pill, that's it, and then problem's gone for a bit or forever. Who knows? Is there a right time to prescribe someone with a pill, or should they, go for the plant, go to the source, and get to the root of the problem? No pun intended, in the first place.
Yeah, I used to come from a place where I was when I first became a naturopath, I was very F the system, I was very like that. But having worked with a lot of people now, I do realize if someone is suicidal at the point of they've got such bad depression, they can't cope with their life and they need to be on an antidepressant for a period of time to get better. And you need a very quick response for that person who is struggling. That would be a great time to see someone professional, like a doctor or a psychologist, and go on a psychiatrist and go on medication. If someone's had a heart attack, their blood pressure is so high, I'm not going to tell that person, I'll go and eat some plants, yes, I am going to tell them that. But when they're in that really high risk zone of possibly dying, then medical interventions are necessary. And so unfortunately, when you've gotten to that point in time, it's a little bit too late it's not impossible. And you should implement a diet. You should implement a healthy diet. You should implement natural, methods. But at that point of time, when it's really high risk, medicine can be very, very helpful for you. And, that's why I'm not anti-medicine. I just really don't like how young people are going to the doctor. They're told that they have it happened to me. I had the highest cholesterol ever. My doctor was like, what the hell is happening here? And she just straight away said, you need to go on cholesterol medication. And I said to her, you haven't even spoken to me about my diet or anything. And she's like, no, you need to go on it's genetic. I'm like, let me have a few months to get this down before I go on medication. I don't want to go on medication. So I took 3 or 4 months to, work on my diet, exercise more. I knew that I wasn't eating well at that stage. And my cholesterol has never been that high again. And so that's what annoys me, is when people, young people and people who could turn things around, it's not at the point of being so chronic that their life is threatened. They just get medication. For example, so many girls on thyroid medication. The thyroid fluctuates. It does. It fluctuates, and you can definitely get your thyroid into a healthy state with herbs, with diet. It's possible. I was prescribed at 14 years old the contraceptive pill for acne, and I was put on that pill for such a long time as a young woman, and every time I got off the pill, my acne would come back. And I would say to my doctor, this isn't a solution. My acne just keeps coming back. And it wasn't until I changed my diet, my lifestyle, that my gut bacteria, because acne is a bacterial problem, things started to get better. So I just don't like when people are parked on medication and they're not given the lifestyle advice and the diet advice that they need to make a long-term change for themselves. Because there are risks and side effects that come from medicine. So if you can try and get things early, really make the change, and then hopefully you don't have to be on lots of medications in the future, basically.
Beautiful. Prevention is key, and like we said earlier, food is information, and whatever we ultimately consume is what we become. And now a lot of the chronic diseases, illnesses we experience today are really caused by food. What are some of the foods that cause these diseases in the first place? Now I know it could be more like acidic stuff, inflammatory stuff, what are they specifically, and what can people do to like cut down on them? Because I know it's not easy just switching from one diet to another, but I guess cutting down is key. But what foods are causing those illnesses in the first place?
I would say definitely stop eating lollies.
Yeah.
Stop eating the lollies, the chocolate, the
Yeah.
packaged cookies, all that
Yeah.
sort of sweet, refined food that's really delicious and nice and full of like colors and flavors and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously too much fatty like meats and the saturated fatty foods, high risk for heart disease. And there's like a lot of debate about that. Some people are like, oh, saturated fat's not bad. Too much saturated fat isn't good for us, so you really do need to reduce that. Alcohol, like it's just not good for your liver, full of sugar. Our body can't metabolize it properly. It can affect lots of different body systems. What else? Too much caffeine as well. It can really impact us because it's high cortisol. It can affect your blood pressure as well. So yeah, I'd say those kinds of foods, like just avoid processed packaged food as much as you can. Eat natural food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome tips. One thing that I get a lot now, I try to divert this to either a nutritionist or a dietitian, is people who experience a lot of gut issues and they don't really know whether to go like FODMAP or all these maps. And then they go to the maps and then they're still lost. They're still lost in the maps.
Oh, yeah. I know. It is so confusing for people. And so just to explain, FODMAP is like an elimination diet where you eliminate like specific foods. It's very, very strict. And I'll be really honest with you. I have friends who are naturopaths who specialize in these elimination diets. I've hardly had to put anyone on one of them.
Yeah.
I don't really love it. I think if you've got such a sensitive system, then it's good to eliminate things and then reintroduce them one by one and like see how you go. But like I don't go to extremes. I'll be like, let's eliminate wheat for a while and see how you feel, one at a time, and then we'll reintroduce it and see. I don't like people to go so hardcore unless they're really, really in a position where just they need a very healing diet and they need to like eat basic food. What I have found to work really well with people who have gut problems, like really bad gut problems and digestive issues, is eating foods that are very easy to digest is a really great one. So like maybe we'll start with like smoothies, maybe we'll start with soups, slow cooked meals, roast veggies, like things that are kind of like softer and easy for your body to break down, rather than too many fibrous raw foods at first because their digestive systems can't handle it. Some people have issues with eating like I find a lot of people have issues with sweet potato, avocado, like certain things like that. So just a really, really basic diet, picking foods that they feel like are working for them. And if they're unsure, there is a test that you can do. It's like a food sensitivity test. And you basically get sent a kit. Okay. You can prick your little finger and put a little dab of blood on this kit, and it tests your food for food allergens and foods that you might be sensitive to, which is really interesting. And it comes back with like high risk foods, moderate foods, and low risk foods. And you can just start to eat those foods that are in the low category until your gut heals. So your gut can take like minimum 3 months to actually have like cell turnover. So you might need to eat this way for like a 3-month period just so you don't aggravate the gut, and don't eat any inflammatory food during this period as well. So you can encourage healing. And then we add like supplements and herbs and things like that too.
Awesome.
So the FODMAP thing, don't get too caught up on it. Really, don't get too caught up on it. Just like eat easy to digest whole foods that are anti-inflammatory. If you're not at a state where it's just your gut is just so bad that you can't like function normally, then it would be good to see a professional. It would be good to see a professional.
definitely being more mindful of, what we eat, what we put into the body, taking a look at the steps that we've taken that got us there in the first place. And I think, like you said, it's ultimately knowing yourself, knowing what
Mhm.
your body is doing when you're consuming certain foods. Because, the more we ignore these signs, especially when we're numbing ourselves through the binge eating, through the binging of media and other things as well, then we kind of create this noise around us where we can't really hear what our body is saying. Our body is the most powerful machine on this planet, and it is constantly speaking to us all the time. We just got to take the time to listen to what
Yeah.
it's saying.
It can be
Um,
really hard for people when they're in that state and they're so stressed and their nervous system is not
yeah,
functioning
yeah,
properly. That it's
mm,
almost like an impulse thing. Like, I remember when I had a really stressful job and I was working like 70 hours a week,
yeah,
um, and I wouldn't get a proper lunch break. I'd have a drawer, and my drawer would have Red Bull and those red raspberry lollies in it. And that is how I would get my energy so I could push on. And so it's when you're in that state,
yeah,
it can be really, really difficult. And then
yeah,
it's a perpetuating cycle where it actually makes you feel like crap. And then you almost don't
mm,
know how to get out of it. But yeah, like
yeah,
making a priority to put basic things like I'm going to meal prep on Sunday and Wednesday night, like for an
mm,
hour, and pack all my meals for work. I'm
mm,
going to make sure I go to bed by this time. I'm going to drink this much water a day. Little tiny goals like that.
mm,
You can focus on one at a time as well. Would be, a good way of feeling more balanced. And then as you start implementing these things, you become more aware. When you're eating
yeah,
like Red Bull and raspberry lollies, you're not going to really know until you start to make little changes and say, whoa, I feel so much better. I'm sleeping so much better. My mood's
yeah,
so much better. So you
yeah,
start to see those things as you change
yeah,
the little habits. Yeah.
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 It all adds up. And yeah, really good tip. Just set little goals. You don't have to accomplish this ultimate being of yourself overnight. These things do take time, and
We
healing is
can't
a
all be
process, right?
Daniel
It's a
Allen
process. It's
on
not
day
something.
one.
uh we'll get there. We'll get there. No, Trish, thank you so much for your time. You've shared so much incredible information. Where can they find you? I'll add the plugins in the links to the
Yeah.
description of the YouTube channel and the Spotify. Where can they find you, and what services do you offer?
Yeah, well, the best place to contact me would be my website, which is
Yeah,
essentialnaturopathy.com.au. You can contact me
yeah,
there. Um, I'm probably going to start making some health videos and things like that,
cool.
rather than the Twitch streaming soon as
Yeah,
well, because I feel like it's just better for what I'm doing to do like little short videos.
yep,
Um, I offer health consultations where we go through your entire health history. We go through family history, diet, lifestyle, all that. We can look at blood tests together that you may have.
mm,
I offer naturopathic meal plans. And then I have like a whole dispensary of herbs and things like that that I can, formulate your own little customized potion for any health concern. So
wonderful.
yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Back to the sacred ceremonies and the yeah, back to the roots, back to the roots, back to the plants, back to the healing. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, Trish, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate the knowledge that you've shared here with us.
No
Thanks
worries.
for everyone that
No
tuned
worries.
in. If you missed out, don't worry. We'll have it on the YouTube channel and the Spotify as well. Thanks everyone for joining in. Remember to stay woke, blessed, and alkalized. Peace out.
Bye.